Yeah.
All right, so welcome to Sonic Dorms. On today's show, I have a very special guest. He's a multifaceted guitarist. He's been around for decades now, and he's just showcasing his talents worldwide. His name is Scott Van Zen. Welcome to the show, Scott. How you doing?
Thanks, Max. It's great to
Yeah,
be here.
absolutely.
Doing
So
great.
what's funny is that the first time I came across your name anywhere was very unlikely. It was through the a Kiss album. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
you've been asked about this plenty of times, but
Oh, that's okay.
what's
Yeah.
what's bizarre? It's a Kiss album that maybe is quite understated unless you're a Kiss geek like I am,
Are you
because
a
it's a
Kiss
record,
geek? Well,
and
that's
I'm a
good.
Kiss geek. So
We should probably talk here and then again. I'll let you. You can call me. I can give you some other good Gene and Paul stories that you
oh
probably don't
man, that would
know.
be great. Seriously, well, that record in particular is Carnival of Souls, or that's what it eventually came
Well,
out as.
the first one was right before that was Revenge, and I had a cut on there called Spit, and it was that was the first cut I got. And Gene was our a manager, my friend of mine, Ken Tamplin, who has a big vocal school online. I mean, he's probably the biggest one in the world. Him and I met Gene, and Gene became our manager. And it was during the time where Kurt Cobain was kind of taking over the world with the Nirvana record and the Seattle explosion. So we were doing a blues based heavy rock, like a White Snake, Van Halen kind of thing. So we got big offers, but not big enough for Gene. He turned them all down. And, but I hit him up about writing songs. And he said, yeah, maybe. And he called me one day. I think it was like Memorial Day. What are you doing? I said, hanging out. You want to write? Okay. So I went over there and we wrote, started writing, and then I ended up getting a cut on the first record. And Bob Ezrin produced it, who produced the Wall and Dark Side of the Moon, and so that was a big deal. He was a great guy too. And that was the first record, and then I wrote a bunch with them. I probably wrote 30, 35 songs with Gene. I got including the vault, which I have a bunch of stuff in the vault. Maybe I got 11, 12 cuts, on Gene records and Kiss records and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, weirdly enough, first time I read your name in the credits was through the Carnival of Souls record. You did three tracks on there: "Hate," "Seduction of the Innocent." In my head, I believe was the third one on that one. But
Hmm.
then I went back and I realized you were also on "Revenge," as you just said you were on "Spit." So you have a co-writing credit on that, and there's something familiar there. There's a very aggressiveness to all four of those tracks. There's a
Yeah,
constant
and
line there.
I on Spit, I wrote a lot of lyrics, and Gene, nope, nope, nope. And the track, I can do tracks in my sleep. As a matter of fact, I was a composer for 20 years for mostly Mattel, but many places. And I did 100 Hot Wheels spots and just, but lyrics, it's not I come up with a hook, but somebody else is the wordsmith, right? And I wrote a song about suicide. I wrote a song about, soldiers. I just all these different things. And Gene, I remember Gene goes, "This is a serious record here." And the song ended up about messing around with fat girls, is what Spit ended up being about. So I'm like, "Great, serious. Thanks, Gene."
Right.
You know, um, but the way I did it, I'll tell you, I had this little TAC 4-track cassette recorder. And I would do a drum track, mono, two guitars, and bass, and I would roll off a stereo to Gene, and on a riff that first I'd go over with just the guitar, then I'd go home, record them, go back, and he would edit on. They used to have these cassette players that had two players, and you could record a cassette to another cassette. And he was taking it was amazing. He was so good at this. He'd play it, and he had the pause button here. And when he wanted to like knock out 4 bars or something, he'd lift his finger, boom, and he was like, it was you'd hear, but that's it. Other than that, it was right on in time, and that's how he'd edit them. And I, he we got along musically. He's really a studied music a lot. People don't they know he's smart and he's a shrewd businessman and all that, and he is all that, but he's also really understands a lot about writing music and hook. I mean, obviously, I've never seen so many gold records, and I used to record at Neil Diamond's studio all the time, and Gene still had more. Not as he didn't sell as many, but he had more plaques.
Right. What I respect about Gene too is, and you can see this if you've, for anyone who's ever picked up the vault or checked it out, um, there's an abundance of material that he brought to the table on every Kiss record. So like I hear Paul would bring in like maybe 4 or 5 songs and really cut them down, make sure they were perfect. But Gene would just be really prolific. He'd just keep writing and writing and bringing like 20, 30 songs to each record.
And he was open, and I wrote a little with Bruce as well. And Bruce is a great musician, and he's my favorite Kiss guitar player. I don't know where you land in that. A lot of guys like the first guys, and Eric is this monster drummer. So I loved hanging around those guys and watching them work. Bruce really loved Hate. That's to me is the coolest Kiss riff ever written, and I wrote it. But it's just aggressive. He's like, "That's badass. I love it."
That's your riff. That's actually your riff.
I wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Let's see. I haven't played it in something like that, right?
That's great, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote that, so I just tuning this back up in case I need it.
That's great, but I don't want to get carried away. Like you said, maybe we'll do another episode dedicated just to that because those are some great stories, man. I really appreciate you sharing that, really. But going back, I'm sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, I know, like, I didn't realize when I met Gene, the day I met him, he asked me how many Kiss albums I had when I was a kid. That was the first question he asked me in person. We talked on the phone before that. And I said, I didn't listen to Kiss, Gene. He said, well, what'd you listen to? I said, well, Jeff Beck and Johnny Winter and, T-Bone Walker and Hendrix a little bit. He goes, man, I really like Jeff Beck. That's what he said. So we got along like immediately when it came like music. I just emailed him a veteran, paid respects to him, and wanted to give him a flag. And he was out of town, but he gets right back to me. I don't bother him with phone calls. He's very busy, but he always gets back to me. Yeah, he's a good guy. Does a lot of good that people don't know about. He keeps it quiet. A lot of good stuff. Yeah.
Right on. That's good to hear, man. But yeah, one of my biggest things is I want people to know the origin stories of artists such as yourself. And to me, you have a vast history. You kind of tapped into some of that earlier in our conversation, but where did it all begin for you, if you don't mind sharing with me your origin story?
Well, I don't mind, and I figure the best way, for people to get it, and especially, I have a guitar school as well. So because what got me going is somebody offered me lessons, and that just changed my whole world, So I like to do whatever I can if somebody's retired or a kid, and it gets a real, make an impact every now and then, because that happened to me. And I was in I think it was in the fifth grade, 5th or 6th grade. I was 10 or 11 years old. And they had after school guitar lessons. And now let me say this, like my house when I was a kid was a volatile, turbulent existence, alcoholism, cops there all the time. It was just crazy. I mean, I was like, I was living in a terrifying state most of the time. And, they had these after school lessons and I started taking them and I just became immersed in it. And I got really good real fast. And my mom bought me an electric guitar, a 1969 SG, Gibson SG, which I still have. And, I just played it I played 3, 4, 5, 6 hours after school every day. It just gave me, I was like a laser to this thing. And it really saved me, I think, So I know people are going through shit, and I think even if they're not right now, what they're doing is they're staring at their phones and the computers and doing TikTok or whatever, and it's like too hypnotic. It's not good. You got to have something to focus on. Now, if you're a writer and that an editor, of course, you got to stare at your computer. But if you're just messing around, you got to get something to focus on. especially if you're going through some rough stuff. So music saved me that way. So that's really was the introduction. But then I found out that you could take records. It was records for me because I'm an old dude, and you could play it and then pull the licks. You go, wow! You could actually, pull it right off of there. And I remember this Led Zeppelin song. It's like. And that was like the first thing that I just sat and pulled. And like, wow, I could listen to it and then I can learn it, play on it. So that was, I had no idea. So mostly how I learned was that. And then I did go to GIT and graduated from GIT. And I understand harmony and theory and all that. But really it was about studying my favorite players. Like, what are they doing, And that's how I got going. And I never did it for attention, even though a lot of attention comes with it, or fame or money. And I've had my shares. There's pockets where I'm really well known, but most people don't know who I am, and I never did it for that. I always did it because I love the sound of it and, playing music and writing music. And it's a lot of fun and it keeps me sharp, so I still love it.
It's great. That's really inspiring too. I mean, and your story in particular, thank you for sharing that. I think that it really showcases that if you stick to something and you follow what your passions are and keep at it, you can go somewhere. It's just a matter of persistence, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, and it's like, change is not an event, it's a process. And then there's events within that. But really the way you get good on guitar, I run a timer. This is not the one. I have these in different. Every morning, I do an hour of 5 minute increments, which takes about 90 minutes, with breaks and stuff like that before I do anything. And I have a little thing where I do the, where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one across. And I do an hour. I do 12 of them, and I'll take something real basic like just a workout, 5 minutes, and then I'll take a couple minutes in between, and then I'll take another thing, and maybe it's a rhythm, but I just stick with it and see what I can come up with. So, I think by doing it every day, that keeps me sharp. I'm in a band here in Vegas, a cover band, or more of a tribute cover band. We're very popular, one of the top bands in Vegas. Everybody does that. Everybody works really hard at it. We do medleys. We knock out like 90 songs in a night rather than 35 like most bands. And but we really work hard at it. So I appreciate that part of it, And anybody that does anything that goes for, I don't care whatever if you're a writer, if you're a martial artist, just go, get up early, stay up late, and go for it. And you'll hit those, where you hate life and you just want to smash things. And you know what I mean? Deadlines. And then, boom, you go to the next level. And, I mean, I have developed an extreme discipline, and I appreciate it. But I know that it was because of the guitar. And I'm glad I stayed with it, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about being in this tribute band now. I think your style just fluctuates between jazz and blues, and it can be very technical but very soulful, which is a hard balance to attain because there's a lot of technical musicians out there that maybe lean very much in that direction, but you still bring that soul power to your playing. It's very evident. And then, so I think that's great. I think it should be easy for you to tap into playing all these different sorts of styles from different songs and different musicians, different guitarists. I mean, because you are very versatile yourself, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I wouldn't say it's easy, but I'm I do it. I can do it. It takes work, but it's true. And what I do is like we'll play in the same set. We'll do Van Halen. So, in one sense, this isn't the right guitar for that. I'm doing, and then within the same set, it's You know what I mean? It's like, and those are my two favorite guitar players, by the way, is Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Ironically, they were extremely famous. That's really not the norm for musician. They always got some Italian guy that nobody knows about from a village way up north that, have you ever heard of blah, blah, blah? And you're like, no. And then you hear him, you're like, oh my God, this guy's
Right.
amazing. But the truth was Eddie Van Halen and Stevie Ray Vaughan were really, really good at guitar. And they were my biggest influences. And then a lot of the other ones people wouldn't know, I don't think.
Those are
Yeah.
two of my guys too, so I think
Do
that's
you
pretty
play?
amazing.
Are you a guitarist or
No, I'm just a big. I
you love
guess I'd be the A&R guy or the producer if
Yeah,
I had
and
those.
ironically, it's like, look at that. So you're not a guitarist, but you love Van Halen and Stevie Ray. And I
Oh
tell
yeah.
my students, I go, you know why you love them, and number one, well, they're great. And I go, yeah, but you know who they are, and you heard them. If you had never heard them, you wouldn't even know who they are, and you know why you heard them. And they're like, why is that? And I go, well, they have great songs. They have hooks. They have hooked you into, so they can, like, my wife I've been with her for over 30 years. And when we were in LA, she would go out and watch bands, and she'd come home and she'd go, I heard this band tonight. You watch, they're going to blow up. And they had a guitar player that had a nose ring that went to his ear. And they had this little skinny guy with long hair that was just a powerhouse. They had some song called 18 or something. And it's like 6 months later, Skid Row is just killing it, right? But she didn't do that once. She did that over and over and over. I said, you should own a record label. I swear to God, it was like, I can't believe she called Jules 9 months before she blew up. It was just band after band after band, and, but there's some like shredders. Like if I put on Paul Gilbert, she's like, and I love Paul Gilbert. Like I just love Paul Gilbert, from the guitar standpoint, I guess. And I think he's a great writer, but she's like, yeah, but if you put on Van Halen or Stevie Ray, or Journey, Neil Sean with those melodic,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and so it's like I think it's gotta be music first. We got this genius bass player in this band, and he goes, look, here's how you get your gig all the time. You cater to the women, and then men will come and buy them drinks. So what we do is we go to the meat and potatoes of the song, and you'll see when we play live, because I'm the newest member, I've been in the band about a year, that our front row is just women singing and dancing. And then there's like a couple of drunk guys. But seriously, if you go and watch us, like there'll be 40 women down front just singing this stuff, right? And then a couple of drunk guys. But because we're doing Journey, we're doing Billy Squier, we're doing AC/DC, and we're killing all of it. We got 4 or 5 singers. They don't even let me sing in the band. I got this old outlaw voice, right? These guys, we got a couple of dudes that are like serious. So, but I appreciate the writing, and we don't. The other thing about the guys that make it a success is we're not the artist here. We're just copying them, and we're putting our spin on some stuff and melodies. But it's like I didn't write "Feels Like the First Time." That's Lou Gramm, and he killed it. That's like he's the genius there. We're just copying him and taking credit for it at a casino or down on Fremont Street. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, yeah. I think another thing about Eddie and Stevie is their guitar tone is immediate. The second you hear them, you know it's them. And I
Yeah.
think that's the beautiful thing about them as well.
And Eddie more than Stevie Ray, hardly ever Stevie Ray. But if you saw Eddie, and I have seen different clips of him, like grabbing a Les Paul or something like that, like it's still Eddie. Like he could play a piece of crap, a $50 guitar, it would be like Eddie. Like what kind of amp is that? I mean, I'm sorry, it's not about that, folks. The dude had the touch, and I know what that takes. And I'm still like, and I've gotten quite some big accomplishments on guitar, as far as thumbs up from some pretty accomplished people, and quotes and whatnot. But it's like Eddie Van Halen. I have this, and I don't know if you don't have this, I'll dig it up and send it to you. But it's about 30 isolated tracks of just the guitar of Eddie, and I got it about 8 years ago, and it's like, there's no drums or bass or anything. It's just the guitar, and it's like, wow, the depth of these are the songs you've been listening to for years. Like without the, it just even more so. You're like, this guy's touch, the amount of dynamics, and he switches. And I think a lot of guitar players missed the boat, and all this shredding, this like super shredding, came out of what Eddie did. But they really missed how greasy he was, like the way that he would overbend a. He just like he had this greasy like blues approach, and then he had wild technique, and I got some buddies, guitar buddies. We just get on the phone, we'll have long conversations and talk about Eddie. And Bart Walsh was, who Bart Walsh was? He
Yeah,
died
he played guitar for David Lee Roth at one point.
Bart was a really good friend of mine. We would have long conversations when I lived in Nashville. He lived in Nashville. And we would talk about Eddie because he really knew a lot about Eddie. And I use a Kemper amp. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a profiling.
I've heard of Kemper.
Yeah. What it does, it takes snapshots. It's not like it's exact. It's like an exact digital copy of something. And then you can go in and adjust it. But Bart was making Eddie tones before he passed away, and it's like I didn't have the heart to go hit his mom up like, can I get in his computer, because he didn't send them to me yet. But dude, they were like Van Halen 1. Like, he's calling me, goes, listen to this. When he would send me audios of him playing, but not the actual profile, just so I could load it in. But we would talk about Eddie, and he, the impact of Eddie dying was big for everybody. For people are painting their houses like his guitar now. I've seen pictures of that red, white, and black thing. It's like he was quite an ambassador to pulling people into the moment. So I think there's some more going on than just playing the guitar when you're at that level of musicianship. I aspire to do a little bit of that and touch people that way. I watch videos of him sitting down and at the end of the stage for 15 minutes and just kind of going off and doing all kinds of stuff. And boy, talk about a versatile guitar player. They were a heavy band and great entertainment, but break it down to that guitar and it's like, wow, amazing. And always great tone. That was his whole thing, his tone.
Yeah, you did something in particular. I was sent a video of yours where you're just dishing out some Van Halen licks, some Eddie licks, and you talk about the story about how at one point you heard something in Somebody Get Me a Doctor, that one line that Eddie runs through, and it sounds incredible, and you're trying to figure it out for so long. It's towards the end of the solo, I think.
Yeah, for a year, I was trying to get this. Let me grab this other. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab.
Yeah, no worries.
This one's got a better, a little bit closer of a tone. But there's this, if you do a harmonic, like you got these, But if you go like this. I was just going like a pull up, and I had my hand, and I go, oh, but I moved it, and I was like, this is like after really trying. So if you do a pull off, I'm like a 4th fret, 2nd fret, open like that, and then down 2 strings. So he does the riff. It's like. Right, and that's on that those things I told you about where it's isolated, like I heard, But the thing about Eddie, like I remember my friend, this guy went out with my sister and my older sister, and then they split up, but he was still kind of friends with my brother. That's how they met, and he mentored me, but he played me Van Halen 1 one day, and I was 16 years old. He said, sit down, you got to hear this. He puts me between the speakers, all analog. These kind of systems would be 30 grand now. They were like $250 then, but all tubes but he had a really nice, puts on Van Halen 1, gets to Eruption, and I'm like, I'm just like my head. I didn't even. It was like I was in denial. Like there. Because there was a band called Hocus Pocus Focus that did a thing called Hocus Pocus, and the guy went like this for a second. Right. That was it. It was like 3 years before that. But this whole the end of Eruption, like what the heck? And then he gets outside of the box, so it's like blues scale. That's where everybody does their. But he would get a little outside of it. So that beginning of Eruption. Even that. And like I don't know all of his licks, but I've over the years I got to a point where I can play like him. Like if we do Van Halen, like I can really bring it. Which they appreciate that when they're smoking weed on Fremont Street. Some guy.
Right. Of course.
That's our joke on Fremont Street. It's like, do you guys smell weed? Because that's all you're just like,
right.
Thank gosh, geez, I can't breathe.
Oh man.
But and it was just I pretty much got almost the whole record, which I wouldn't know now, the whole first record down. And then he comes out with Van Halen 2 and he does, I'm like, come on, what are we supposed to do? Because the thing with Eddie, it was, what is he doing? Like, not, like somebody could really shred, like Neil Sean's a shredder, and I that stuff was hard to learn, but it's like, you knew what he was doing. You knew that he had great technique. You're like, and you could, if you slowed it down or listened to it enough, you could do it. But Eddie, you're like, what the hell is that? Like, on what is that, Mean Street, that thing where he's.
I was just gonna bring that up, man. The opening.
Like,
yeah.
All that stuff. It's like, when I heard that, that was probably my favorite Van Halen record.
Fair warning. That's mine.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the guitar playing on that is. Are you kidding me? And. What's he doing? What is that? So you look at you see these guys. I've seen these people on YouTube and on Facebook and stuff that they'll take a Beatles song or something and do tapping, and they're amazing at it, right? And I'm like, well, where'd they start that? Where did that start? Well, it started from Eddie. It's like people that with all the tapping that got so crazy. I mean, he was, he would do his thing, and he still was the, one of the best at it. But I remember watching a guy, I was at a club in LA, and he had a holster around his leg, and like a gun holster from an old, Western, right? And he takes his guitar like this on stage and he shoves it into the holster. And then he's got it right here. This is all on, like, he's got it down to one move. Then he's got it upside down. He's just, and I'm like, I'm out, man. I mean, my God, how many hours a day do you must trust fund or something to you just, that's it. That's the only limit, but wow, he could really do that. So, but it's like, okay, you're kind of missing it, the musicality of what Eddie's doing. It's great to have the technique, but you still got to be able to put some love into three notes, along with that, but same with Stevie Ray. People call Stevie Ray a great blues guitarist, but his records only have a couple blueses on it, actual blueses. Blues is boring. I mean, it's boring, and I'm like, I don't know if you've ever watched Fred Armiston. Is that his name? He was on
the comedian SNL.
Yeah. Okay. So he has a thing on Netflix called comedian or comedy for stand up for drummers. I think it's called stand up for drummers. But you have to audition to get in as a drummer. You have to play something, and the whole audience is drummers. But he does a thing where he's standing there and they're playing blues. He would play tracks and he's looking, and like a minute in, he's kind of looking around like, how do I get out of here? I don't want to disappoint the band, because it's just boring. So you got to spin it. But the guys but the blues approach to good music, like Johnny Winter and Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray, and like there's a guy, Joe Bonamassa, that's out now. He's I mean, I think Joe Bonamassa is amazing. And he got me in. I remember watching him, and he got me into these more of a horizontal. Always played horizontally, but he got me into to getting the pentatonic, the more Eric Johnson, who I think is great, but he never really did it for me. As technical as he was, it just didn't do it for me, right? But Joe Bonamassa, I heard him in these licks where you're coming down like, see, so you're coming down. He would move up and down the fretboard like that. I was like, wow, what is that? Because it's just the same 5 notes that we play for blues, and and he was so good at it. I saw him here in Vegas, and boy, he was great. Man, could sing too. My God, what a voice! I wish I had that voice.
Yeah. I caught on to Bonamassa through a project he had with Glenn Hughes called Black Country Communion.
What a singer, Glenn Hughes.
That was the best.
My dog is in an album cover with Glenn Hughes and Mark Bonilla and James Child. My pug, Mark Bonilla, met my pug. He goes, I want that dog on my album cover. I'm like, whatever. Hollywood, people in their mouth and off. Next thing I know, I'm getting a call from a publicist. Your dog needs to be at so and so. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's it's like the Jesus Last Supper kind of a hang, a dinner.
Okay.
And my dog's right now. My cousin is Troy Lucetta from Tesla, the drummer for Tesla.
Yeah.
And he's in it. Like there's 10 and Glenn Hughes and Mark Bonilla and Jane Childs, if you remember her, she had that crazy hair. And it's like, and my pug, because he loved the dog, I'm like, okay. Yeah. But Glenn Hughes, wow, talk about a singer.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's still got it too. He's one of those freaks. He's like 70. He's got the voice still.
You can go till you're 100 if you can go till you're 100. I mean, it's really about discipline. What Gene's still out there nailing it. It's like go listen to Tom Jones. What he's 80. That dude will still wipe the floor of most people. Man, he brings it. He's still getting hit in the face with panties. Maybe they're a little older, but he's amazing. Yeah. I saw Glenn and Alec Lichtenberg, who sang on many records, but at a NAMM show, just knocking out covers, the two of them back and forth. And I think that was one of the greatest vocal performances I've ever seen in my life, those two singers. I didn't even know about Alec except for the Santana record, Marathon, that I really loved. He was the singer on it. And I was like, this guy's a great singer, but I never really put 2 and 2. And I'm like, oh, that's that guy. No wonder, Glenn's he was a very nice guy. I hung out with him a couple times, and he was very good, really nice guy,
Anyway. Hey, I'm enjoying this so much, but I got to get to your EP, man. That you came out with an EP called Trouble last Friday.
Yeah, that's
right. October 21st, and what an EP. I was the stuff that you do on this throughout. What is it? 6 songs, right?
Yeah.
There were moments that made my jaw drop.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Devil on Both Shoulders. You kind of go into this Spanish guitar kind of vibe, and phenomenal. You do some Stevie Ray Vaughan. You tap into that SRV territory too on the opening track. Towards the end, of your solo on that, you squeal the strings in such a way that's very SRV.
Yeah, let's see, in The World Gone Crazy. So I do this. Stevie Ray was an amazing rhythm player. Like he was, but he did this thing that it got from Hendrix, but it's like, and then in between you do the, you get that. So the riff is, it's like a Johnny Winter meets Stevie Ray Vaughan. It's that kind of a thing. And then I think I got into even a little Eddie right at the end. Some of that stuff right at the end. And a lot of the I was listening to it last night, actually. I live in Vegas, I live by a lake, if you can believe it. I live on a lake. and I was walking around the lake and just listening to it. I'm real proud of it. I mean, I usually don't have co-producers, but I had a couple of other producers, John and Khalik, and they had great ideas. Like Devil on Both Shoulders, taking it from Spanish into the other thing and speeding it up a bit was all John. I was like, I would never thought. I was just gonna like, let's just do a Spanish thing, and he's like, nah, here's what we're gonna do, and then bringing it back, so stuff like that. Khalik had great mixing and ideas that way, and I just love the um, that they left it raw, but it is, I would go in and dissect things more. And I fought him on this, but now I love that they left it raw because, I would like, I'll go into a bar and fix like one bar and fix a lead in a recording. But a lot of those are demos. And we just John started putting stuff around him. I mean, in a world gone or all gassed up, I didn't know what was going on the record. Like I sent him a demo and he sends it back with backup vocals, Hammond drums. I'm like, what do you mean? I played it. I'm like, shit, it's done, man. Mix it.
Yeah.
And but I think there's a trade-off if you get too intricate. Like I scrape strings. I go like stuff like that, which I hardly hear anybody do, but I think it's kind of a crutch, but it sounds greasy and cool. So I just kept it in my playing all these years. So you'll hear a lot of that, that kind of stuff on the record. And then, I dig in and do some technique, but mostly it's more of a story thing, and it's appropriate. The world's like all over the place right now. And it seems like there's probably some dark stuff going on, and it's really about that, but I choose what I'm going to sing. And if something is what I would say, I would go, yeah, I'll say that. I like edgy stuff that bites. I always loved Bruce Springsteen and his, like, when he'd sit with an acoustic and just talk about
Yeah.
smashing bones and the thunder of the rain and
Yeah.
it's not like a bad Vietnam firefight and stuff. Just like it make you like, oh man, So I feel like the writers I co-wrote with on this, like Marshall Hunt, is a guy that lives here in Vegas, but I met him like 10 years ago in New Mexico, and he goes, I got some poems, and I'm like, okay, people say that all the time. He was just this animated guy, and he gave me Devil on Both Shoulders. Was one of the poems. And then I'm like, wow, this is good. And I gave it to Kent Blasey. If you look up Kent Blasey, he's one of my best friends in Nashville. He wrote Garth Brooks' first #1, among many other songs with Garth Brooks, and hundreds of other hits. He's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, for writing. And he took it and twisted it, but most of it was Marshall. And then we recorded it, and I'm like, I gotta, this. I mean, I wrote that 10 years ago. So I did a demo of it, but I was working for John from Love Conquered Records, John Hopin, and he's like, this stuff's really good. We ought to do something with it. So I forget which one we started with. It might have been Devil on Both Shoulders. And then now we're in, like, we're already planning the next 2 records. We're actually working on them, because we really like what happened with it. I feel like, and they do too, that there's an audience for this out there. And I always felt like if they know who I am, they're going to like it. They want me to come do it live. And when I play live, it's a good thing. I mean, like I bring the heat live. You'll get your money's worth and maybe even then some, So it's like, but you got to dig around on the internet to find that. Like, mainstream don't know Joe Bonamassa. They don't know who he is, but he's one of the best shows I've ever been to. Like, he's got guys from Stevie Ray Vaughan's band, and he's got he plays for 2.5 hours, and it's just like boom, 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 like wow. And people don't even know who he is. So there's a lot going on in the world that's got nothing to do with the agenda of music. I lived in Nashville and I watched them start making real idiots famous, in my opinion. Like, was it, because I was working with Kent Blasey. I mean, I'd go write songs with him and he would spin something out. I'm like, oh my God, where do you get that? He goes, you do it a long. He was very humble. You do it a long time. They just come to you. I'm like, yeah, but wow, that's you just knock them out. Just it was like sitting down with Mark Twain or something, and to timing and chords. I mean, the guy wrote "If Tomorrow Never Comes." I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's like if you're not, it's Garth Brooks' "If Tomorrow Never Comes." Go listen to how simple and how deep and poetic it is at the same time. It's like somebody talking at a bar, and like the Constitution or something. It's combined. It's just so well written. And he told me, I said, "What's the secret to songwriting?" He goes, "Well, let me tell you the main one." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Have a pen and pad wherever you are. If you're going to be in a room, have a pen and pad." And he said, especially next to the bed, because you wake up, and I'm guilty of this. Oh, this idea, this is great. When I get up later, I'm going to write this down. And it's, what the hell was I thinking? What was that? And he's just write them down. Oh, okay.
I think what it is like right now it is below the surface. If you look, it's not too hard to look, but if you look around below that surface, there's a world of authenticity still with artists such as yourself and a Joe Bonamassa. There's real artistry that's still authentic, and I think that it's important that that it continues to thrive, continues to exist, and that we continue to have outlets to promote artists such as yourself, because we need to show. I think there are people that are hungry for real music still.
I also, I think when you get out of here, and I haven't spent a lot of time in Europe or out of here, but if you get out of the United States, you find more of an appreciation for, that guy's good or he's not good. It's not who he is. It's not what family he's from. It's like artwork. This is a, you know, a Vince Schwa, and and it's like a freaking bicycle rim welded to a hammer, and then it's painted gold and a piece of foil, and it's $100,000 because he was the guy that did. And they'd sit and tell you this story, and then you're like, oh yeah, I gotta have it, as opposed to sometimes you just roll up on a painting, and it's like, I never heard of this guy, but wow. Like I think if you showed me a Monet without knowing it was a Monet and you never heard of Monet, you'd still go, my God, the colors in this is amazing because it's good. And I think there are a lot of young artists that aren't getting a good shot. Living in Nashville, I heard writers just that sit and do their own songs. Like most of these people, like the girl that wrote the Carrie Underwood songs, I watched her when I first moved to Nashville singing, and she sang those like "Jesus Take the Wheel" and the other one about beating up the car and all that.
Yeah.
Before he cheat, like incredible word spinning. Because I don't love country music as the sound. I love the bluegrass for the chops and the picking and the musicianship. But as far as the sound, I mean, I like Jeff Beck and the stuff we talked about. But this girl singing the songs that her own words far surpassed Carrie Underwood's version of it because it was her story, And there's a lot of talent in the world, and there's a lot of young people that are really good. But they a lot of times they are, shoving this crap. They want to dumb. I think they want to dumb everybody down so they buy more beer and take more drugs and more fun. It's like it's the same bullshit. But I also think that people are really waking up to all that and they want more depth. Like because I'm running into people that are really like my daughter's 24 years old and she's smart. Like she's not shallow at all. She's not what they're representing online. That's not how she is. And they're not like that. I'm not saying some of them aren't, but kids are smart. And we got to treat people like that with art as well, with music. And I'm not saying that my stuff's intricate or anything, but I know that it has depth as far as feel. And I think the main thing is it's honest. This is it. This is what you get. My students, I tell them, you got to be honest with yourself. What I mean by that is like you hit a note, did it work? Did it work or not? Is that a good vibrato or not? And if the answer is yes, then great. But if it's not, it's like, well, what do I need to do? Maybe I need to pause a little bit and then start it. So then the next time you do the lick, then it's there. But if you haven't had that internal dialogue with yourself, and you spend all your time scraping the pick down the strings or grabbing the whammy bar and looking at that girl because that's all that matters to you, that's how you're going to play. And I don't care about that. I don't want to hear it. But I think I can tell when I look in the crowd and I'm playing, because I always bring everything to it because, we get one day at a time here, right? You can tell that veteran that gets it, or that, they understand what you're doing. They're just into it, and I'll focus on them. I'm doing my show and running around. We move around a lot and cater to the front row and all that. But the people that enjoy it, it's everything. I get letters or messages from veterans, Vietnam veterans. Your music calms me down. My head is overly active, and what you do, it helps me. I've gotten that of multiple times. Those guys, man, anything I can do for them, like they got a raw deal. Their head is attacking them, and because I'm chaotic in the way that I play, but I can kind of control it, they relate, and that means the world to me. More than somebody, I love your hair, that whole, you know what I mean? It's like, somebody, if somebody is worried and they can listen to my record or watch me play or hang out, watch me online or get a lesson, whatever, and they takes them out of that. Because I think if we remove ourselves from ourselves for a moment, by what I mean, stop dwelling or worrying or whatever, that life naturally works itself out. I've been around long enough to see that it does that. And I believe music, real honest music, is way more important than people think. I hope we don't have to be like the artist that dies to find out, I've always made a living and been in great environments because of it. So I don't worry about it. Even now, I'm like, I love what I'm doing. And, but it's like, it's really important. People, you obviously love music, and you're a fan. My wife's a fan. She loves me. We've been together over 30 years. She comes and she sings the lyrics. She knows the song. Has fun the whole time. We've been doing this for years. She's been watching me with bands. She's real, I don't like that singer, whatever. You need a new singer, whatever. But she loves this band because she has fun with it, and it's like, but she's a fan of music. It's not about anything other than that. It's not she was never the girl trying to get backstage, to meet the band because of who they were. It was like, if they're a good singer, then she wanted to do that, good musician. She wanted to listen to it. And, you know what I mean? It's like, just be a fan of the music. It's important. Music's important. Art's important. If we weren't taught to go get money, everything's go get the money. Yeah, but that pays better. Well, they don't. What genre is it? Well, it's good or bad. It's good. That's what genre.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
exactly.
If you watch what people do for free, and that's what they should be able to do. It should be covered. Everybody should get as long as they're busy, they should get the dough and be able to do what they want. I bet we'd have a lot better world if that was the case,
You're speaking the truth, man. You really are. I can't help but agree with everything you've said, honestly.
Thank you.
So speaking of,
yeah, go ahead.
That's right. So speaking of the EP now, you're working on something new. You said you're working on a couple new things, right? So
well, one of the things we're doing is I have an instrumental record called No Words, which I released in 2019, and John wanted to go in, and Kolik, my producers, co-producers. They're not co-producers, they're producers. I'm a producer. We're all producers. But they want to tweak it a little bit. I may re-record a couple of things, and then we're going to add a couple of tracks. That's the main thing. And then we're doing a funner record where this is kind of dark. I mean, there's three devil songs on this thing, but my friend Marshall writes about the devil. He likes to write devil songs, but it's like, how can you argue with a title "Devil on Both Shoulders"? I mean, that pretty much sums it up right there, you know. So it's like it's just funner stuff, and then more chops and different things. I don't know if you've heard No Words, but that one has a lot of versatile guitar playing on it, stuff like that, and it's done pretty well. And but it never really got a. I mean, I sold, I don't know, 1,000 units or something like that, but it didn't. It hasn't really been out in the gotten out there. My Facebook fans liked it, bought it because they wanted to see signed one, and I know more people have, many more have heard it because everything's pooled musically. Like if you're on iTunes, they just go listen to it. They listen to everything. So so kind of that record in with but with some vocals. I'm not the most confident in my singing, and but most people tell me I got a great storytelling voice. And I know I'm not a great singer. I got some vocal chops. I've studied, but I'm not that natural, pretty singer. But it suits what I play. So it's and as long as it's the bitey world, I'm not going to sing a mushy love song. It's not me. But if it's about a fist fight, I can put it out there like the best of them, because that's the kind of voice I have and it suits my guitar playing. And as long as people are having fun, and if I have fun, they will.
I was gonna say, like, your voice has, you're telling the story through your words, of course, through the lyrics, but then I feel like through your guitar, you're also telling the story as well. The story. When I heard these tracks off the Trouble EP, you would sing a few lines, and it was quite direct because you're telling me them. But then your guitar would tell me those words, would tell me the story as well in another way. So I would still feel the story that you were trying to tell me through the guitar itself, through your guitar playing.
I appreciate that. Let me just let my dog in real quick.
Yeah, no
Come on
worries.
in, Mookie. Old basset hound. I had cancer a couple years ago, and another time guitar came to the rescue, and I knew that I needed to keep playing. I practiced a lot. Actually, I put in a couple of 3 hours a day while I was going through radiation and chemo, and I was really weak, but I still played. But this old basset hound Lucy was right there, just laying next to me the whole time. She just knew something was up and wanted to stay with me. So if I go in my studio, which is a converted room, but it's really set up nice in here. You can probably see some of my guitars, and it's like the Starship Enterprise in here. She'll get bummed out if I stay in here too long without her. So I didn't want to listen to her whine, so she's down here.
Hey, by the way, Scott, I was meaning to bring that up. Congratulations! I think it's incredible that you got through what you went through, and you're here with us today. I think that's incredible, and
Thank you.
thank you for still being here.
Yeah, thank me. Well, I guess it did have something to do with me. If anybody going through that, and you, it's really up to you. You got to just stay with it, and that's a whole nother conversation. But it's like you got to decide. I'm beating this, and I know some people go in late. I caught it early. It's an ordeal. It's really an ordeal. It changes everything. But there's many benefits. It got rid of a lot of fear and a lot of stuff that bothered me before that I didn't even know was there, because I really kind of gotten over most of that stuff. But it's really like if you don't know you're going to be around next Thanksgiving or Christmas, you know, and then you are, there's a grateful part of it. So yeah, there's benefits to everything. Everything has a purpose, I think. Even
Right
cancer.
on, Scott.
Even
That's
cancer.
incredible.
you know,
Yeah.
I'm not ready
Well,
to
I'm glad
accept
you're
that.
still here.
Mm,
No, I'm glad you're still here, man. Really.
I appreciate
And
it.
honestly, I had been out of the loop in as far as your music is concerned for a long time, and this was sort of like when I saw your name come in through the email chain, and I saw, would you be interested in interviewing this guitar maestro? And I said, Scott Van Zen. I haven't heard from him in a while, and I just lost touch with your music, and this was a nice coming back to your world and what you do best. So I'm back in, tenfold. So I'm gonna go back and listen to all that I missed
Oh,
throughout the
listen.
years, and I'm on
Well,
board now 100%.
and this is more about my history. So, in growing up in that, my parents got divorced. When my wife was pregnant, I wrote a song with this artist named Rock Voisin, who's very well known in France and Quebec, French Canada. And he offered me a tour, but I was just starting to get into doing ads, and I had a choice to make. And do I want to go tour? It was a lot of money, but so were the ads, and it would have been fame and all that stuff. And I just, I have friends that were rock and roll stars, and I know their life was turbulent, and they had a lot of divorces and stuff like that. But I didn't want my daughter to not have both parents, and I decided to be a composer, and I did really well at it. I mean, I was behind the scenes, but it paid well, and it made me be able to get my family whatever they needed, and then some. And then I learned a lot about composing music. Um, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I don't know. I mean, I think it was the right choice for my daughter. My daughter lives with us now, which is great because we have a house. She gets the upstairs, and it's like we would have a renter, but it's great that she's our renter. She rents from us, and just having her around, having the family here, and a couple of dogs and cats, it's amazing. It's a good life. But I disappeared. People are like, my God, I just heard of you. Where you been? I get that all the time. I was like, well, I was raising my kid, man. I mean, Garth Brooks stopped for 10 years or something like that to raise his kids, and he was Garth Brooks. That guy was selling out stadiums 3 nights in a row. I'm just some guy beating up on a guitar, so I'm glad I did it, but I'm having a ball now. Like, as long as you're healthy, I mean, I'm healthy, I eat good. I like to work out. I do martial arts and yoga and weightlifting, and then I play. And I'll challenge any little 25-year-old to keep up with this old man all day for a week. They'll be tired.
Oh
I got
man,
momentum.
you look fantastic, man. Really.
Thank you. Thanks.
Absolutely, Scott. So, Scott, I really appreciate you. Honestly, you troubled the storm, the weather with me through the technical difficulties earlier on. You hung in there with me, and we finally got this through. And I really appreciate you taking all that time to get to this. And I'm glad you. I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you taking time. This is a passion project of mine. This show, Sonic Dorms, I started it 1 year ago. So, and it really was because I've been carrying all this knowledge with me about music for so long, and I'm like, I gotta do something with this, and it's
You got to
better
put it
late than
out.
never.
And it's like during the COVID thing, like my wife and I got into um, cruising around on YouTube and other formats and just getting into different people talking and yammering on, and we follow some people, and they just have a knowledge base that we want to listen to them, and I think people appreciate that. Like, you look around, like obviously you're credible, and if you're doing this, then you're gonna it's your thing. You're bringing something to the table. I mean, what are you gonna what do you want, watch one of these stupid sitcoms, and a bunch of commercials trying to sell you crap? It's like it's what it's supposed to be entertainment. And it's like getting people's history, and there may be somebody that's heard of me, and then they find out I'm on your show, and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that about him," and that kind of stuff. It's more personable. I had a guy come up to me last weekend. He was this Russian guy, but he lives in the States. But he's like, "I've been following you online," and he just already knew me, and I could tell wasn't, the band was like, "This guy's all obsessed with you," and I'm like, "Oh, he was one of the guys that's been watching me online, man, for I think in Russia and then here and that, and then he's all of a sudden he's in Vegas and he's hanging out with me, and he's just a real nice guy. Took some great footage of me playing live, put it up on his Facebook page. Guitar player, shredder guy that was famous in Russia, kind of big fish. And I meet people like that all the time. It's amazing. it's a great journey. There's more depth in the underground and the fringes. There's more depth there. Like it doesn't exist in that pool because the people. All right, so I'll tell you, in advertising, like I did that for years, and what I found out was the people that run it. Not everybody, not the real. There's some real gems and some real creative people, but a lot of the people. I don't want to say most because I don't want to piss off people I worked with, but I'm not working with them now. So it's like they go to college and drank for 4 years, and then they get out, and their mom goes, "Can you give Sarah a job? She's got this advertising thing," and they because they gave money to the school and they didn't really do what they just got no depth. Like I just worked for people that was like, how did you get this job making multiple six figures as the director of well, because of their connections. So,
Right.
and really they didn't know that. A lot of them didn't know that they weren't any good at it. They just were thrown into it. So I got into this thing where I could like kind of like show them, hey, I heard you say something and I came up with this based on what you said. So as soon as it became their idea, boom, it would go through and I could be done with it quicker. And it's
Of
like,
course.
I did a thing years ago and it was talked about the freedom to be like who you're around, your people you're closest with, you can be who you are the most. But like hanging out with you, like if you were here and we hung out, I could say almost anything to you. I could tell it wouldn't, I could just tell you read a lot, you're open to a lot, like, yeah, fucking aliens, yeah, whatever, like you just have that vibe about you. But some people you got to really dumb it down and tone it down for them. And I don't want to do that anymore. Like, especially after the cancer, I just like, I want to hear what's going on with people. And if they want something out of me, just ask me if I can help you. Maybe it's beneficial because things are meant to be. But if you're just trying to scam me out of something, I got no time for that. I mean, shit that I used to take a year, trying to get something, hustling, being in LA, like it's 5 minutes now. Like, this guy, forget it. I'm
Yeah.
out.
Right away.
I just know I was like,
Yeah.
I wish I had this kind of thing, but it's like I'm not going to chase that. I mean, I drove nice cars and flew around on jets and all this stuff, and it's like sometimes you end up with some real idiots. You're like, God, I would never hang out with this people if it wasn't for this jet or this car. And so it's like I don't care. And that's the thing. Like my band are the funniest they're very interesting, all of them, but they're hilarious. Like these guys, like just hanging out before we play at Fremont Street, back street. Like you talk about you 5 guys and it's like, God, what are they gonna say next? Like it's part of the thing. But it's the wit. It's like, okay, so one of my favorite TV shows is Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I feel like I
Yeah.
know those guys. When I watch Ryan Stiles or the Wayne Brady, like those guys do stuff there's so many levels of comedy and thought that went into something that's that fast. It just blows me away. So I feel like I know them, but they're just guys. I don't know them. They're like, hey, back off, buddy. Because of their, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Are you
So
like an energy like guy, Scott? In that you can are you like can you pick up on vibes and because that's how I read people the second they walk in a room, and if I
yeah,
know
let me
there's
just say,
any sort of negative connotation there, I sort of
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm extremely
yeah
sensitive to all that. And that's part of
yeah
having the tone and and playing the way I do. But my wife is also, and so is my daughter. Really is, and it's like I've studied a lot of stuff like that. I've been sober for 32 years. Like I don't do anything, and I got it had a got a little crazy back in the day, but I don't. But in this journey, I've checked out a lot of different things and found things that I find pretty cool. And this is a little weird, and I don't know what people think of this, but okay, so I don't like the airy fairy spiritual this, or there's kind of a denial thing about it. All right, so there's a place called the Monroe Institute, and they have the guy has a spoon bending course. And I'm like, no way. But I had a good run. I'm like, I'm going to check this out and see if it's a real thing. Because if I could bend a spoon, it's something I absolutely think that I can't do. But I'm open to there's the things you don't know that you don't know. Like I'm open to see if it's a real thing. So I bought this course online and I did it. It's like it's a meditation and you got this spoon and you're like that. And then you get to a point. This will sound weird, but it's like you go, and I spin the thing around like 4 times. It looks like it was heated up, welded, spun, and then I'm like, what the hell? And then it comes back. I know this sounds, because some of the people are going to be bullshit. All right, it's not bullshit. This happened. So then I went to the Monroe Institute. Twice I went there. You could look it up. It's in Virginia. It's Jim Monroe. Matter of fact, Yoda, when a guy from Jim Henson, is that his name?
Jim Henson, yeah, the puppeteer.
Yeah, he was there. One of the guys was there, and they were looking for a face for Yoda. They used the founder of the Jim Monroe is Yoda's face, because he was like, this guy's cool, so we're going to make him wise like Jim. So it's like there's a picture there of Yoda and Jim Monroe, and you're like, wow, it's true. That Yoda's Jim Monroe. So that was because I loved Empire Strikes Back. Was like changed my
Me too.
life. My favorite one,
Yeah.
Dagobah system, all that shit.
Yeah.
So I went to this thing, and part of it was like throwing dice, and because they have this thing that goes to Vegas, and they go and they play craps, but this guy, he was kind of hitting and missing, no big deal. But then class was kind of over, and there was about a half dozen of us there. And the dude teaching the class threw 16, 17 calls in a row. And they were all pairs, one after another. 4s, 2s, 6s. And we were like we didn't want to breathe. And afterwards, and he's a mathematician, this guy too. And we were like, chill out, fuck, I've never seen, like, it was crazy, right? It's talking about what you don't know, you don't know. I mean, I was standing there, I watched this happen, and he did the math on it. It's like it was like the number or a couple numbers after a trillion. Like, trillion is the last one I know, but then I know there's this other one, quackanolanian, and then it gets into these other, like to one, like the odds of this happening.
Wow.
It was like crazy, right? So what's that all about? Well, intention. The guy had an intention. It just seemed to line up, and he was able to do it in front of us. Joe McMahon Eagle was there. You can look him up. He was part of the government psychic thing with many documented finds of stuff. He found artifacts of World War II artifacts buried when from his house in the United States. He told them exactly where to go, longitude, latitude. And they dug and found them. And that's not one thing. I mean, he had a show on TV in the 70s, finding things like that guy. And I had dinner with him. This was weird. This is a little bit of a hats off to me and my energy, but my intention was to sit. I sat at dinner, we were there for a week, and I said, I want to get everybody around me. And by the third night, I was at the head of the table, and Joe McMahon Eagle and all the instructors were at my table every night. And that was my intention, was to
just
get
through the power of the mind, really, right?
Just thinking that, and that happened, So we're getting off into the kind of the wackiness, but that's what happened. I mean, that's what happened, So, it's like, do I believe in aliens? I haven't seen one, but I think so, but I haven't seen one. Like, I don't. At this thing, this girl goes. This is why I say, like, I had a box. I moved from Nashville to Vegas, and but I threw them away. I had a box of spoons that I was like doing this every day, just like spinning spoons in little spirals. Like I'm telling you, I've done it. I haven't done it in 3 or 4 years now, but you can do it, But there's a lady there, and there's a boar bee. Do you know what a boar bee is? It's like the size of a bumblebee, pretty, and it'll go into wood and dig this like
Okay.
a round hole, right?
Right.
So
Right.
but they're funny. They look like pug dogs, and they'll hang around. They'll just stare at you. And like one used to mess with my French bulldog, and he'd jump at it. It would go up a foot, and they look like they're playful and stuff like that. And they'll chase wasps away. They'll just chase them and stuff like that. So they seem like have personalities. But this lady is talking about, I was out back and I saw this bee and I just know it was my uncle, she says, and he was chasing wasps away, and I'm sure, and I'm like, lady, it wasn't your uncle. That's what they do. Like that is that weird thing people just want to believe in something. And it's like, that's why I wanted to go bend the spoon. Because it's like, I don't buy this at all. I wasn't like, this is going to be great. I'm going to bend spoons. It's like, no way. This is, and because I'm like, if I can do this, then I know that it can be done. So I did it,
Yeah.
and it can be done. Which, ironically, something that was so like no way is like that not that big a deal now. It doesn't boggle my brain anymore because I did it. So if we get an alien invasion, I think we'll go, oh yeah, there's aliens. Like I don't think it's just like once the stuff we accept, it'll just be what happens, right?
Well, look what happened last year. Like we didn't see that coming anytime, and it just happened. But now we've kind of come around to it, and we're just like, it's a way of life now. We just come to accept it and
Yeah,
carry on.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
carry on now. Yeah.
And ultimately, I think this is going to play out to be a positive for everybody. I mean, I think you find out, I think we're finding out a lot about the world and how it's been running for a long time, and through this, and people are gaining their own power, and it's going to be easier for some than others. I think people that are artists and stuff like that are more aware of what's happening than anybody. I never glued myself onto the tube. It's always been something on in the background while I was practicing scales. I like watching Guy Fieri go to diners. I
Oh
like
yeah.
watching. I like watching Dave Kindig restore an old, '69 Camaro into something that's magical. If I had Powerball money, I'd go, Dave, make me something. I don't care what it is. I wouldn't even care. You pick the color, everything. Just let him go, Like that's the kind of stuff I like to watch. And Dexter, I like Dexter. I like the idea of a guy who's dark like that. He has to figure out where to put the energy so he just takes bad people out. I think that's
Right. New
incredible.
season too. New season.
We're gonna wait. My wife and we've watched the whole old one like 3 times. Right now we're on like season 5 now, and we're gonna wait until all of it's in, and then we'll
binge it from beginning to end.
we may slip over the holiday, and go, you know what, it's cold, there's nothing to do, no gigs, let's watch Dexter. There's 8 of them so far.
Right.
I think that, I remember him from 6 Feet Under, and I thought he was just an incredible actor. But boy, this guy, did he nail that part, man?
Oh yeah, Michael C. Hall, he's great. Yeah.
I think he's.
Oh yeah.
So there again. Okay, so yeah, it's about serial killers and all that, but it's really about this guy's so good at storytelling, and so is the directors and your different characters that it puts you in the moment. Which was a great thing about we're talking about the music. We're talking about my record, which is on an independent label, but that Dexter was not, that was like it wasn't ABC, NBC,
No.
It was, I think it was one of the cable networks that.
Yeah, Showtime.
Showtime did that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that on NBC. I scored a show with John Larroquette's son. Faulty Towers was a John Cleese show way back in the day in England, and they redid it in the States, and it was called Payne, and his name was Royal Payne, and Joe Beth Williams was his wife. Constance was her name, so her name was Constance Payne and Royal Payne, and it was it was hilarious, and it's like Ted Danson, it was on CBS. We did 9 shows, like a mid-season replacement. Ted Danson um, had Becker, and it was either Becker or Payne. John Larroquette's coming off 5 Emmys, genius, one of the funniest guys ever. My God, this guy sitting in the room with him having coffee was like the highlight. He's a genius. And Ted Danson also, so it's like, who do they choose? Because they're both big money guys. These are guys you got to throw 5 million at each or whatever. So they're going to pick one, and they picked Becker, of course, because Becker was
Right.
200 8-10 years. But it could have gone I could have been there, working on John Larroquette's Pain, and getting fat and just doing the TV show. It was fun
I
to.
had no idea. I'm a huge fan of Faulty Towers. I had no idea there was an American
You can
like
find them
version of
online.
that.
You
Really.
can find them online. I'll tell you, it's like it was funny talking about art because it was CBS, but it's like they had this little guy named, he was like, they did a lot of politically incorrect, which I think they've ruined a lot of good comedy because we're not sensitive. They're acting like we're sensitive. They're telling us we're not. Like, none of my friends are, and my daughter's friends, like they're not sensitive, and we're not racist, and we're not, none of that.
Hmm.
It's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But I watch them. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it's not what they say. She'll be all right. So one of the scripts was that he was like a Middle Eastern guy. His name was Mo. He was a hilarious character, but he comes in. I booked the hotel. This wasn't in the show. They took it out. They said, no, we can't do that. I booked the entire hotel, because he's running the hotel, to World War II veterans. But then as the script goes on, they were Nazis. Like, he booked the hotel
Oh,
with
okay.
and it was like the way it was written. People were just, and Bernie Brillstein was sitting there with us. I mean, he was Jewish, and he thought it was hilarious. I used to
Hmm.
hang out with him there too. I used to park my Volkswagen in Bernie Brillstein's parking lot, and but they took it out. So it's like, how much art and good stuff you don't even get to see. That's the thing with music. This stuff is not going to be in the top 40. But I think everybody that hears the songs in my record that like that kind of music, they're like, this is really good, because it is. It ain't just me. The whole team put this together. I'm just the one who gets to stand out front and do it. It's
Well,
a
yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
collaboration. Yeah.
And for those that don't know, bringing it back to the EP, that want to purchase your EP, they can find it where exactly? If they want
Scott Van Zen Official.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be purchasing a physical copy, because I still do physical. I like CDs is still my
Yeah,
thing. I still like
they
CDs.
sound great. They have vinyl, they're printing vinyl too. That's going to be out soon. So,
The
um,
thing is, like, it's still CDs to me are great because you're still digital. If I want to rip it to my phone, I can do that. If I want to hold it, I can hold it. I can look at
I
the
didn't,
liner notes,
I
all that stuff.
missed it. They weren't that
Yeah.
bulky, and we shouldn't have gotten rid of them. We should bring them back. Yeah, Scott Van Zen Official, loveconqueredrecords.com, but scottvanzenofficial.com, and that'll put you right there. And I just want to give a shout out to the label too. Like scroll around there and look around, because there's some other interesting people going on there. And John Hopen, he's and Khalid Glover. These guys are interesting. They got good history, but John can put you in touch with some of these other artists. I don't know who got you here, Kim or
Kim did,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Kim's been really great working with her. She's really bringing it. I've never had I've been in bands and stuff and been around, but I've never had my own publicist. Like, it's kind of like, wow, I don't know how
No,
that.
she was great. She was like, check this guy out. You might like what he hear. And I saw your name attached. I was like, is that who I think it is? And here we are.
One
So,
and she got me. I did a hype magazine like last week, and there's some other stuff coming up. She's it's, to me, it's fun. This is fun. This is part of it. You connect with people. I mean, you'll probably end up in Vegas at some point. Everybody comes to
oh
Vegas.
yeah, everybody is going to Vegas now. Everybody.
Everybody comes to Vegas,
Yeah.
and when you do, you let me know, and come out and hang out with the band. Like, you'll be surprised, like the party this is. Like, it's like church, man. I can't hear my guitar. We play Journey. I can't hear my guitar sometimes. They're singing so loud. Like it's crazy. And we're in the middle of a Westgate resort on a Friday, and it's packed. We did a night we played, and our drummer does Sister Christian Night Ranger, and Jack Blades comes out from Night Ranger, and he's like watching him, and he goes, "Man, that was great!" And he kills it. We all do, but it's like he kills it. He's a great singer and he's a great drummer. And so Jack Blades, Night Rangers, is at Westgate, and they're like, he's in there, and he goes, "I know you at their show. It's like 10 o'clock. It's ending. We're just starting our second set. We played 3 1-hour sets with a half-hour breaks in it. So 10 to 11, half-hour break, 11:30 to 12:30, we're done. We played from 8:30 to 12:30, right? So Jack Blades says, "I know you guys are going to go out and hear that great band out in the middle of and he announces us to their crowd. So we get flooded with the Night Ranger crowd. And like our bass player, he's the band leader, and he's like, let's just play, man." And I'm like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. I'm good." So we played for 2.5 hours straight. Like, we didn't take a break. We're just knocking out, like, we're coming at him with AC/DC, Journey, Van Halen, Billy Squier, Eddie Money, Tom Petty, like, and these are medleys. This is 4 songs, 4 songs of all of it. Like, I'm telling you, I go and eat somewhere and there's a classic rock station on. I hear maybe 2 or 3 songs that we don't do. The rest of them we do. I'm like, we did this one, we do that, we do that.
Right.
We have a Duran Duran, which I wasn't big on Duran Duran, but we do the way we do it. So it's Duran Duran. It goes into a riff from "Do You Feel I'm," or the "Hungry Like the Wolf." That's them.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
Do you think I'm sexy? Rod Stewart into "I Was Made for Loving You," Kiss, out of that. Then we do "Round and Round," the whole song pretty much. 3/4 of it. Rat. I do both solos.
Mm-hmm.
Then we end it with "Spirit of the Radio."
Oh, Rush.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
and it's like 9 minutes of smack, smack, smack. Like, people are like, "Fuck, wow," like, and because, like, during the pandemic, people are just like, "Oh, there's no gigs," and we're like, Gary, our leader, the bass player, he's like, he manages people. That's his job. He manages contractors and stuff, and he's just a great leader. He studied leaders. He's just like, and I'm like, "Dude, you're good at this, and I'm a leader, but I'm just gonna, like, I got your back. Let's go, and let's just work, man. Let's work." So we were 2 nights a week, long rehearsals, and we're just building, and so we did that for like 9 months, and then we gigged. And our first gig it was amazing. This guy, this rich dude here, it's his wife's 40th birthday party. So he takes their motorhome garage and turns it into a nightclub. He puts her in the limo. It's like he's got this big property, and that's where we're playing. Her favorite band is Def Leppard, so we open with that. But the way he reveals it to her, he's running her all over town in this limo, but he's blindfolded her. He's taking her into restaurants, takes it off. There's Henry and Sally. They're "Oh, you guys are here, great!" So they have a little cocktail and a shrimp, and an appetizer. Then he go in and, like, does like 3 or 4 of these. Then he brings her home, but there's Mexican mariachi music playing over the PA, and you can hear the people talking, which are all her friends, 200 people, 150 people, whatever. And she pulls a blindfold off. The look on this girl's face, whatever, she's like, it's her house. It's turned. There's lighting, and I go into. I forget what Def Leppard song, but it was the first gig I did with him. I was like, "Man, you got," and then boom, this, like, lined with women. They're all singing. He goes, "This is what it's like for us." I'm like, wow, amazing, And it just, people love nostalgia. They grew up, the people that grew up then, they listen to this stuff. And then I get off I do my, like, the Trouble record, and I do my guitar stuff, and I do live stream and for fun, and it doesn't pay like advertising yet, but it's a lot funner.
Right. It sounds to me like you're in that perfect place right now in your life where you're just ready to have a good time and nothing less.
Well, it's like, if this can put me on the blues cruise and I can, jam with Joe Bonamassa, I think we'd have a nice little exchange. Eric Gales, these guys that are in that genre. I think that's where I belong. But I think this will put me there more than anything else because you got to sing. These guys all sing, and they got songs like that. And this is the first one of that. But as this gets out, if people hear it, I think it'll be successful. I know. I try to listen to it. I listen to it walking around the lake, and I like, okay, if this wasn't me, what would I think of it? And I think it's pretty good. I'm like, oh, I hear a couple of licks. I'm like, that was good. That was a good one right there. If I never knew who that guy was, I'd be like, who the hell's this guy? I'd be Googling him. Who's this guy? He's pretty good. Songwriting's good. I mean, we got award-winning songwriter partners.
The production, dude, I can hear all this. I can hear the dynamics. It's not brick walled. I don't like these records that everything's smashed. Everything sounds loud. This, you can hear every instrument clearly.
Yeah,
everything's well spaced out. It's great.
It's been heavily looked over to make sure that it sounds like it wasn't looked over at all. Which is all of our favorite records. They got heart. Why is it's funny how much Mutt Lange stuff we do. Because it's like he was just perfect at it, and we need bands that had 4 hits, and all of his bands had at least 4.
That's my all-time favorite producer, and he's like he's the perfectionist to the perfectionist. He is the guy, an all-around songwriter. He's a Sonics guy. He really gets the ear candy. He's the king of the hooks, from the Cars, AC/DC, Def Leppard, Bryan Adams, Shania Twain.
And the biggest is Def Leppard, because he's
right.
And Back in Black, we wore that record out. I mean, I think the greatest rock and roll record ever is Back in Black. Really, just in your face,
Yeah.
Troy's band Tesla and Poison opened for Def Leppard in Nashville at the I forget the arena there. 25,000, 30,000 seater. Always sounds like crap in there. I thought Nashville ought to sound better, and Tesla sounded good. They always sound good, but they were better in smaller venues, like at the Ryman Auditorium. They should have filmed it. Should have been on VH1 or something. It was just amazing, And Poison were great entertainers, but Def Leppard playing, it sounded like a mastered record. Like, I'm like, wow. And I was in the sound booth. I was with one of the guitar players from Aerosmith, not
Brad Whitford.
Yeah, Brad Whitford was there, and Troy. And I was standing, and I'm like, I got to find out what the hell's this guy's doing. So I go, dude, I don't want to bug you, but holy shit, it sounds freaking amazing. Wow. Like, oh, thanks, man. And so we're just talking. Hey, give me a minute. And it's like he's mixing Def Leppard, but and he's using the Chris Lloyd Algae plugins that I use when I'm doing stuff, but it was like, this doesn't sound like this array like it usually sounds in here. So not only did they have that library, and it's live, like these guys aren't.
Yeah, they're not playing the tracks. That's all of them. Yeah.
I mean, as far as I could tell, I was paying close attention. Like, these guys are like doing this. I mean, because it wasn't like 40 voices, but it's like, you can tune things and process things and do things. So when it's live, and it's like, man, they're really good live, real good.
Mutt Lange really made an impression on them. They still have that philosophy of his intact. He really put him into shape.
As a matter of fact, the other guitar player, not Vivian Campbell, the other Phil Collins produced a Tesla record.
Shock, yeah.
Yeah. So and it was like, and I was hearing it before anybody else heard it, and it was like, wow, this has got Mutt Lange all over it, man. It's like,
the big backing vocals, the big stacked harmonies, the hooks.
Yeah, a lot of it I really love,
Oh yeah, I like that record. I thought it was underrated.
Yeah, well, records, it's not like you got a tour and all that kind of stuff now, and people don't sell as many. Like Kent wrote on Garth Brooks stuff. I mean, he had the best view. Kent Blasey, best view of any of the Nashville houses, because he made millions from just the mechanicals, not even the airplay, just the idea that, I got 4 songs on a record that sold 80 million copies, 60 cents or whatever, 35 cents per, you know what I mean? That adds up, really adds up, so.
Hey, well, as long as we have the people out there, we're spreading the word, letting them know, and there's people out there that do love what you do, myself included. I will be purchasing your record, by the way, so
I appreciate
physically.
that, man.
So absolutely,
Awesome.
man. And
That'll buy me
I really, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me, Scott. I mean, it really means a lot, and you're the real deal, to say the least.
I appreciate
So,
that, man. It's good meeting you. We'll stay in touch. Yeah.
hey,
Great.
man, I'm gonna save your number if that's all right, and let's
Yeah,
do this
absolutely.
again. Well, I'm definitely gonna have you back on if you'd like to come back on. You
Sure.
always got a home here,
Yeah.
really.
I got plenty to yammer on about.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, let's do something again soon then.
Okay,
All right,
but
Scott.
all
Till
right.
next time.
All right. See you later.